Welcome back. Today we're looking at 2.3, graphing quadratics from standard form. Just a reminder, standard form for our quadratic function looks like ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are the coefficients. A is the x squared coefficient, b is the x coefficient, and c is the constant. Let's just jump into this. So we started talking about stuff like this a couple of lessons ago. This one's asking us to answer the questions about the quadratic function. And the quadratic function for this one, let me rewrite it over here. G of x equals 2x squared minus 8x plus 9. The first thing is asking us, does the function have a minimum or maximum value? So that one we're keying in on our a. Remember, if our a is positive, it opens upwards. If it's negative, it opens downward. So in this case, we have a positive a. It's positive 2. It opens upward. And when we have an upward opening parabola, we're going to end up having a minimum value for our vertex. All right, so if we're the other way around and our a was negative, it would open downward, and we'd have a maximum value for our vertex because that would be the top of our hill. All right, the next one is asking us, where does the maximum or minimum occur? Now, what this is asking us to do is find the x of our vertex. So remember, to find the x from our vertex, all we have to do is do x is equal to negative b over 2a. So our a is 2, our b is negative 8. Let's start plugging our stuff in. Negative b is negative 8 over 2 times 2. That's going to give us negative is positive 8 over 4, which is 2. So we're going to put our 2 in our box. Let's change colors here. And then what is the maximum or minimum value? So this is asking us to find the y. Right? So what we're going to do is we're going to substitute the x that we just found. So we have g of x equals, and remember, g of x is the same thing as our y, right? So we can use them interchangeably for the most part. So we're going to say 2 times 2 squared, right? Our x is 2, minus 8 times 2 plus 9. Remember, when we're simplifying, exponents come before our multiplication and division. So 2 squared is 4, times 2 is 8, minus 8 times 2 is 16 plus 9. 8 minus 16, negative 8 plus 9 is 1. Okay, so the 1 would be the minimum or maximum value. Another thing about this is we did the same process when we're trying to find the vertex. Basically, that's what we're doing here, because the vertex will tell us what the minimum or maximum is and where it's going to be located. Okay, this one is pretty similar as well. So we're looking at the graph this time though, and they're asking us to answer the questions. So for this one, does the parabola open upward or downward? So if we look at our parabola, it definitely opens downward. Part B is asking us to find the intercepts, the y and the x. So the x-intercepts are the numbers along the x-axis. It's kind of hard to see here, but we're going to have x-intercepts at negative 2 and at, looks like negative 6. The y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis, so that one would be at negative 3. Find the coordinates of our vertex. Our vertex right there is going to be negative 4, 1. Now, the equation of axis of symmetry, this is a little bit different. So one thing to know about the equation of axis of symmetry, it's always going to be x equals something. So let me kind of draw this in here. The axis of symmetry just goes right through the middle of the vertex. And what that line is for is if we folded that parabola on top of itself, or we flipped it across that line, we'd have the same exact parabola. It'd match up. So in this case, really, if you know the vertex, then we know where the axis of symmetry. It's going to be -4. Right, because it passes through the vertex, through the x value of our vertex. So just make sure that when you write it in here, you put x equals and then the value for your vertex. Okay, so just to recap, just looking at the graph, we know it's opening downward. If we're opening upward, it would look like that. Finding the intercept, so just look on your x-axis and your y-axis. List the numbers where the graph crosses on each of those. The vertex is pretty straightforward. It's either the top of the hill or the bottom of the valley, depending on if it's opening upward or downward. Write the coordinates for that point. And then the last one, axis of symmetry, you take the x from your vertex and say as x is equal to that number. And that'll give us the equation of the line for our axis of symmetry. All right, on to the last one. It's asking us to go ahead and graph this parabola. So what we're going to do first here is we want to figure out where the vertex is, and we're going to start a table from our vertex. So you're going to say step 1, find the x for our vertex. So we're going to do -b/2a. In this case, we don't have a number in front of our x squared. Be very careful. In that situation, our a is going to be 1. If we don't have a number in front of a variable, we assume it to be 1. b is -2, and c is -4. All right, so if we're simplifying here or we're substituting in, then we have our b is -2 over 2 times a, which is 1. So we have +2, the double negatives cancel out. 2 times 1 is also 2 on the bottom. So we're going to have 1 for our value. That's going to be for our vertex. So what we want to do is, because a parabola is shaped the way it is, if we can find a couple points to the left and a couple points to the right of where the vertex is, then we should be able to draw a pretty good graph of a parabola. That's the whole reason we wanted to find where the x was. So we're going to have our middle term be that 1 that we just found. We're going to do two integers less and 2 integers greater than. And then we're going to find these values by substituting. So we're going to take our -2 first. We're going to plug it in. So -2 squared -2 times -2 minus 4. 4 minus negative is +4. So 4 plus 4 minus 4. So that's going to be 8 minus 4, which is 4. Okay, let's do the same thing. Oops, sorry, that shouldn't be a -2. Let's erase that. I skipped my integers, weird. Alright, so if we did the next 2 integers, obviously after the 0 we should have a -1. I just screwed it up. So let's go ahead and erase this. Not that it's wrong, we just skipped the space, and there's no real reason to do that. So -1 squared, -1. So okay, we have 1 minus negative again is +2 minus 4, so that's going to be -1. Do the same thing with 0. That's easy, right? 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 4 is just going to be -4. When we plug in a 1, we get 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 4 which is going to be 1 minus 2 is negative 1, minus 4 is negative 5. And if you do this correctly, you're going to find that the 2 to the left are going to be the same as the 2 to the right, but you can go ahead and check. So when we plug in our 2, then we get 4 minus 4 is 0, minus 4 is negative 4. All right, so these two match up. And then when we plug in our 3, we should find that we get negative 1. Let's just check. So 9 minus 6 minus 4. 9 minus 6 is 3. 3 minus 4 is negative 1. So these ones also match up. And then we'd go ahead and plot the points. So you're going to hit this button, and then you can just plot these points. You can just input negative 1, 1. It'll plot the, or negative 1, negative 1. It'll plot the point. 0, negative 4. It would plot the point. 1, negative 5. It would plot the point. You get the idea. And then once you get all these points plotted, you just hit this button here, and it'll make your graph. Obviously, this is going to be nicer than the one I just drew, but yeah. And it kind of tells you over here, plot 5 points, 2 points to the left, 2 points to the right, which we did, right? So we found where the vertex was, step 1. We use this formula. We did 2 to the left, 2 to the right, like it's asking us to. Then we substitute our x's in to find our y. And then step 3 was plot. We use that button there. And step 4, we just hit the graph button and it graphs it nicely for us. All right, so that's pretty much it. Hopefully it's kind of a review a little bit, at least for those of you who had Algebra 1 last year. If not, then please take your time, think it through. If you have any questions at all, please come to class. We can talk about it to get you guys caught up, because quadratics are something that is covered or should be covered heavily in Algebra 1. I'm not sure how far you guys got along with that, because the school year got cut off a little bit last year. So yeah, I want to get you guys caught up as much as possible.